When the Sahaba went inside that cave, they found a huge man. And Tamim ad-Dari said that that man was the most best built man that any man had ever seen. The strongest looking man that any man had ever seen. Very muscular, extremely powerful looking. And they asked him, "Who are you?" Now this man was in chains, he was shackled. His wrists, his legs, he was completely tied up in chains. And they asked him, "Who are you?" He said, "You will soon know about me. Tell me, who are you?" They said, "We are people from Arabia." And then narrated to him their 1 month journey, how they had left from Arabia and they basically come to this place because of the bad weather in the sea. And then the man started asking some very peculiar questions, some very strange questions. He asked, "Tell me about the date palms of Baisan in Palestine. Do they still bear fruit?" And the Sahaba said, "Yes, they do." And he said, "Soon they will not bear fruit." Then he asked, tell me about the lake of Tiberias in Palestine. He asked, "Is there still water in it?" And the Sahaba replied, "Yes, there is." He said, "Soon it will become dry." Then he said, "Tell me about the spring of Zuhr. Is there water in that?" And the Sahaba replied, "Yes." Then he said, "Tell me about the unlettered prophet. What has he done?" And they told him that he has left Makkah and settled in Yathrib. He asked, "Do the Arabs fight against him?" And they replied, "Yes." And he asked, "How does he handle them?" And they told him that now all the Arabs were following him and following his deen. He asked, "Has this really happened?" He was surprised. And he said, "Yes, of course this has happened." And he said, "It's better for them to follow him. Let them follow him, it's actually good for them." Then he said, "Now I will tell you about myself." He said, "I am the Dajjal. I will soon be permitted to leave this place. I will emerge and travel about the earth. In 40 nights I will pass through every town except Makkah and Medina. For these have been forbidden to me. Every time I try to enter them, I will be met by an angel bearing an unsheathed sword, who will prevent me from entering it. There will be angels guarding them at every passage leading to these two cities." So this is the explanation that he gave. Now when Tamim al-Dari came to the Holy Prophet and told him of this incident, the Holy Prophet completely agreed with him. That yes, in fact, you have seen the Messiah Dajjal, the great Messiah Dajjal, the one that is going to come in the end of time. And the Holy Prophet then, while addressing a group of his companions, said, "Indeed, he is in the Syrian Sea or the Yemen Sea." Then he said, "No. On the contrary, he is in the east, he is in the east, he is in the east," and he pointed towards the east. Now, one of the other distinguishing characteristic of the Messiah Dajjal is the fact that there is the word kafir written between his eyes on his forehead. There is a hadith from Sahih Bukhari where it was narrated by Anas that the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "No prophet was sent but that he warned his followers against the one-eyed liar or the Dajjal. Beware, he is blind in one eye, and your Lord is not so. And there will be written between his eyes kafir." Kaf, fa, ra. So this will be written. In a further hadith narrated by Ibn Shahab, it mentions that there will be written between his eyes the word kafir or unbeliever. Everyone who resents his bad deeds or every believer will be able to read it. So not everyone can read it. Only a true believer or a person who resents his bad deeds and is trying to come to the good path will be able to recognize that there is kafir written on his forehead. The Holy Prophet further said that you must know that no one of you will be able to see his Lord until he dies. So the two things that have been mentioned in this particular hadith are, number one, that only a true believer will recognize the Messiah Dajjal. Many will fall prey to his schemes. And the second point, a very simple point that he's trying to explain to us is that none of you are going to meet your Lord until after your death. So he's pointing us out to a very clear indication that if someone comes to you and says he's actually God, check whether or not you're alive or dead. if you are alive and if you see someone saying that he's in fact God, then clearly he is not. So these are two indications that the Holy Prophet has actually given us, very simple examples via this hadith. Now let's talk about why this Dajjal is a problem for us. What powers does he possess that he can impact us? The first is that he will bring paradise and hell with him. This could be something metaphoric or it could be something real. It mentions that he will bring the paradise and hell, but that which he calls hell will in fact be paradise, and that which he calls paradise will in fact be hell. So he will deceive people. The hadith further mentions that whoever enters his hell, let him seek refuge with Allah and recite the opening ayat of Surah Al-Kahf, and it will become cool and peaceful for him, just as it was so for Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. So like the fire was cooled for Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, when the unbelievers threw him in the fire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cooled it. So in the same sense, when a believer goes to the hell that is shown by the Masih Dajjal, that fire will not affect him. It will in fact be paradise. The second thing that he will do is something very convincing, is that he will go to all parts of the world except Makkah and Medina, and he will show people signs. He will bring people back from the dead, and he will show them what will seem like bringing somebody back from the dead. He will ask them, if I bring back your parents who are dead, if I bring them back to life, will you believe in me? And the people will say yes. And then he will ask two of his jinns, two of his fellow devils, to appear, take the form of the parents of one of the people. And when they come as the parents of that person, they will say, my son or my daughter, follow him. He is right, he is saying the truth, he is the God. And people will follow. So this is one of the hypnotic powers that he has. He has control over the evil forces, the jinns, the devils, and he uses them to deceive people. Another incident that is actually narrated in actually several ahadith is the story of a young man who will confront the Masih Dajjal. And he will confront him right on the outskirts of Medina. And when he confronts him, he will say, I know that you are the Dajjal. My prophet warned me about you. And then he will grab him and he will ask the people that I am going to kill him and then resurrect him. Will you then all believe that I am the God and he is telling a lie? And the people will say yes. And then he will kill that young man, break him into two pieces, and then put him together and resurrect him. And as soon as that young man comes back to life, he will say, now I am 100% sure that you are the Masih Dajjal. First, maybe I could have been a bit of a doubt, but now I am 100% sure, and at that time when the Masih Dajjal will try to kill him again, he will not be able to, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let him. So that young boy or young man is written as one of the greatest martyrs in Islam in the future. Now, as we mentioned earlier, that the Masih Dajjal will not be able to enter Makkah and Medina. These areas are restricted for him. It is a hadith from Sahih Bukhari narrated by Abu Sa'id that Dajjal will come and he will be forbidden to enter the mountain passes of Medina. So he will not be able to cross that area. He will encamp in one of the salt areas neighboring Medina, and there will appear him a man who will be the best of the people. This is the same young man who we referred to in the previous hadith as well. And there he will kill that young man and then try to resurrect him again. In another hadith from Sahih Bukhari narrated by Hurairah, the Holy Prophet peace be upon him said, there are angels at the mountain passes of Medina, so that neither plague nor a Dajjal can enter it. So these two holy lands are completely secured. Now, this brings us to something that is known as Yawm al-Khalas, which is going to happen during the time of the Masih Dajjal. Dajjal, as we know, he will pass through an area where people will deny him. When he passes through one of the particular lands, the people will deny him, the people will reject him, and to him, he will take away all of their wealth, he will kill their livestock, he will take everything good that they possess. Then he will pass through a second area. whose people will believe in him. And he will order rain to come from the sky, which will bring forth crops and make their flocks, their livestock fatter and give them the capacity to produce more milk. So those people will apparently be living in happy times, the ones who believe him. He will pass through every place on earth except Makkah and Medina until he reaches Al-Zarab Al-Ahmar and camps at the edge of Medina. Then Medina will shake 3 times. 3 major tremors will come and Medina will shake. And once it shakes, all the mushrikun and the munafiqun, the disbelievers and the hypocrites will come out of Medina. Now we know right now